Hello and welcome to this edition of In Focus. I'm Rukma with you, and over the next 1 hour we'll be discussing about the latest figures of foreign direct investment inflow in the country. As we were telling you, foreign direct investment is a major driver of economic growth and an important source of non-debt finance for the economic development of our country. It has been the endeavor of the government to put in place an enabling and investor-friendly FDI policy. The intent all this while has been to make the FDI policy more investor-friendly and remove the policy bottlenecks that have been hindering the investment inflows here. The steps taken in this direction during the last 6.5 years have borne fruit, as is evident from the ever-increasing volumes of FDI inflows being received into India. Continuing on the path of FDI liberalization and simplification, the government has carried out reforms across various sectors. FDI equity inflow has grown by 168% in the first 3 months of fiscal year 2021-22 compared to the same corresponding period last year. Total FDI inflow of $22 billion, more than $22 billion during the first 3 months of 2021-22, that is April to June 2021, is much higher as compared to nearly 12 lakh billion in the first 3 months of 2021. What do these figures really mean? What are the factors driving such growth, and how do they affect our economic development? These are some of the questions we shall seek answers to in the next 1 hour. I'm Rukma with you once again. Joining us for a discussion here on the show are 3 distinguished guests on our panel. Well, we have with us first and foremost Anand Singh Bhal, Principal Economic Advisor. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Dr. Charan Singh, economist and CEO of eGrow, and S.K. Jindal, Chairman, Investment and Capital Market, ASSOCHAM. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Singh, as well as Mr. Jindal as well. Well, the first question coming to you, Mr. Bhal, when we talk about the figures that we have been talking about FDI equity inflow growing by 168% in the first 3 months of 2021 to 22, that is April to June. What do they actually mean? 168%, well, by all accounts, a mind-boggling figure.
It's certainly a very heartening to see such wonderful figures for foreign direct investment coming in. As we all know, foreign direct investment it helps fill in the resource gap in the economy. It brings in actual investment. It brings in good managerial practices, and it helps to building a quality culture in the economy. So the government of India has regularly been trying since 1991, since the year we opened up our reforms, to promote foreign direct investment. And especially since 2014, with a strong emphasis on improving the ease of doing business in the country, where we made a quantum leap from around 2014 to now this last year, where we are 63rd in the ease of doing business parameters. The ecosystem for investment in the country is accommodating, and it's very positively inclined towards investment, both domestic and foreign. We try not to distinguish between foreign and domestic investment as per WTO rules. So the big thing about this wonderful figure of, big jump in foreign direct investment, both equity and actual investment, is that it's a wonderful indicator of the faith in the Indian economy by the global investors. Globally, the whole world is in a churn. We've been through Corona and the attendant disruptions in the global value chains. The whole world is now looking at a sort of rejig of the global value chains. So you see, the whole world doesn't want to rely too much on a big neighbor country, for pharmaceuticals, for automobile, for electronics. So all this has led to a bit of a change in focus, and is resulting in this high growth in FDI in the country, and it augurs very well for the country. I'll like to start with this. Thank you.
Dr. Charan Singh, your reactions to the figure 168% growth. And we also have with it that in the first 3 months of fiscal year 2021 to 22, the amount was 17.57 billion US dollars compared to the same corresponding period last year. It was 6.56 billion US dollars. That's a huge leap when we talk about an increase in foreign direct investment.
Yes, it's a 160% increase, and I think that is really something to celebrate. What I would say is continuing with the discussion which my previous friend was having on the panel, I would like to say, please keep one thing in mind. The destination India is the most favored destination. Why do I say that? Look, the changes that are ushered in as the new government came in 2014 are amazing. The FDI limits were raised. The automatic route was expanded. There was minimum into the government permission taking route. So therefore, the doors were wide open. Even when the pandemic took place, the government came out and like watching and encouraging the FDI on insurance, on petroleum. Now, one thing I would like to mention, all over the world, if you look at the country, there's been a massive transition of ideology that took place. The country is always in the election mode, but there's always political stability. We have one of the two best regulators in the world, SEBI and the RBI. 5,000 listed companies on our two stock exchanges, National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. And then, as you know, that this pandemic also brought in some concerns about China, and 961 countries which operate on the soil of China are a large number, and they have been starting to think beyond China. So some have gone to Vietnam, some have gone to Bangladesh, some to Estonia. But then, as I have been arguing, and the government has also been talking, making India a very friendly destination. The corporate tax rates were accommodated and reduced. And if you look at the type of measures that the finance ministry has been announcing, as well as the Prime Minister during this period of pandemic, it will inspire confidence. Here is a country which understands and which cooperates and which welcomes the foreign direct investment or foreign partnership. And this is exactly where I see the results are beginning to show. Starting from 2014, even during the pandemic period, the sensitivity to the international requirements, please don't forget, the Prime Minister introduced the Make in India. And when you introduce the Make in India, many more concessions were given to foreign companies to come and operate in India. And with the fame that India has gained now, with the vaccinations, 2 of them prepared in India, you can very well imagine that the drugs and pharmaceutical investment attracted by this foreign direct investment is going to shoot up. So it's a favored destination, and the green shoots are beginning to show.
Right, green shoots are beginning to show. As Dr. Charan Singh has said, more than green shoots, I would say, as a laywoman. Well, coming to you, Mr. Jindal, you're the chairman of Investment and Capital Market ASSOCHAM. What do you feel is, do the figures 168%? We've seen a steady increase in foreign exchange reserves. We've seen a steady increase for almost more than a year now, ever since the COVID pandemic struck. So can we say that this is going to be the trend, and the trend is just going to go upwards?
According to what I understand of the economy and what I have seen in the recent past, this is going to be the trend. You see, we have seen many new things happening in the recent period of one year and 9 months. Lot of things have come out which were never happening before. The whole thing, the whole world, the whole economy has rejigged, as my predecessor said, and I am in total agreement with both of them. Whatever measures, etc., Dr. Charan Singh has mentioned, I am in total agreement. They are all good things which have been done with pre-planned schemes announced by government, big ticket reforms, and they never we never saw them, their confidence getting shaken on some of them. No, they were firm with them, and that is what the world looks up to. At the moment, India is the only destination everybody is looking up to. If they want to invest overseas, then India is the destination because of our political stability, our culture, our big ticket reforms, the direction in which we are moving. What we have already shown is also important in the, like Dr. Charan Singh said, in the case of vaccination, the kind of service we have given to the world. So many structural changes have taken place in the last 1 year and 9 months. Our own companies are showing tremendous results. Everything cannot be bubble. So we have to have faith in our system.
Yes.
Going in right direction, and these numbers are not, you cannot rely upon. These are the numbers you should go with them, and because direction is right, so you should move forward. FDI policy reforms in investment facilitation and ease of doing business, the major ones. When people look at them, they see that there is no other better option but India. That is how we are seeing these numbers, and they can be highly relied upon. And this is going to be the norm, according to me.
Right. Well, a very positive picture, as the figures clearly indicate, Mr. Bhal. When we talk about, the release that has been given out by the ministry, it says that the total FDI inflow was 90% higher in the first 3 months of this fiscal year, as compared to the last fiscal year. Well, what was it, would you say, that has changed? As we just heard our distinguished panelists, they are all saying that it's because of the major policy changes. But a year, how would you calculate this quantum jump?
See, the ecosystem for inviting foreign direct investment in the country has been getting a lot of focus from the government, and the whole process of reducing compliance burden, improving ease of business, and making it easier for businessmen to do business has gradually crept in and is making an impact on bringing in more foreign direct investment. On top of that, this global churn in the economy since March 20 of Corona has led to a relook and a rejig of priorities of foreign investors also. They would not like to keep all their eggs in one basket, or invest mostly in our big neighboring country, with all the security and socio-economic implications. So global investors are also looking for fresher revenues to more reliable places where they can transact business, where they can invest freely, where the governments honor the contracts, where they're big markets. And there's none better than India which meets the bill. If I'm an investor anywhere in the world, if I want to invest in the automobile industry, where else will I go? India is the best place. We've got the labor, we've got the environment, we've got the ecosystem, we've got the ancillary systems going, we've got testing standards, you name it, and India is the destination. Similarly for computer software, whether it's for pharmaceuticals, gradually the Indian manufacturing has been shaping up, quality standards have been in place. There have been 4 important labor codes which are now being brought into the country to ease doing business. Our regulatory architecture is being sort of, as Dr. Charan Singh says, we have some of the best regulatory architecture in the country, and in some sectors it's still improving. And now with the latest, with monetizing of our sort of assets, the whole economy is in a churn, and it's a very interesting point. And India is a great place to do business. Huge markets, stable environment, enforcement of contracts. Where else in the world will you get a combination like this? So it is it's a good times for India, and I hope and I'm sure it's going to improve, and India is going to sort of ride the wave of the 4th industrial revolution in a big way. Thank you.
Right. You mentioned the automobile industry, Dr. Charan Singh. The automobile industry, interestingly, has emerged as the top sector during these first 3 months of this fiscal year, with a 27% share of the total FDI equity inflow. What does this mean in layman's terms? And were you expecting that it was the automobile industry of all the various sectors that would attract this kind of investment?
Sure. Just imagine the situation. The whole world is sinking in pandemic, and the Bombay Stock Exchange Index and the National Stock Exchange Index is touching all-time high. That means there's purchasing power. Where is the purchasing power getting reflected? If you go to any of the stores of the automobiles, go to any of them, be it Maruti, be it Mahindra, you find they're full. They don't have time to even come for a test drive. Try it. And with Mahindra coming out with his XUV 700, that means there's excitement. And there are others who are launching their own products. Tata is launching its own product, and therefore that means the car industry is booming. The scooter industry is booming. Ola is every day coming out with another, and electric scooters are starting. So in our own country, where the purchasing power exists, where will it get reflected? It is getting reflected in the automobile industry. As the purchases, as the demand for automobiles go up, obviously there is an opportunity for the international market to come in and participate in this success story. And most of them are in a partnership, be it Toyota, there's a partnership there. So they all come in, and I think the other thing is the infrastructure. Look, the way India is investing in infrastructure, and we're talking of a national infrastructure, and we have spoken about a national asset monetization pipeline, again correlated with infrastructure. Now, when the infrastructure is improving, obviously automobile and that journey is opening up, but then infrastructure itself is a huge investment opportunity. And if you look at the data and you find in construction, in infrastructure, again investment is coming. You know, you were asking the question, what happened in the last 1 year? Let me tell you another factor in addition to what Mr. Bal was saying. We have announced a new education policy, and you look at the data which has come on FDI, there's money coming into even education. So in a way, India is an exciting destination. Things are moving. And if you look at China, where there's a saturation of infrastructure, here is a country which is coming out with all fresh ideas about infrastructure, connecting the water, the rivers, and creating waterways. This is something very new and unique, totally unexplored. Then, of course, the roadways are doing well, the airports are doing well, and we want to do more of the airports, as well as the trains and the fast-moving trains. So the complete ecosystem in the country is becoming so interesting and so growth-oriented that anybody in the world would like to come and participate in the growth story which India is unfolding. The last point I want to mention, as rightly pointed out, but I wanted to stress the confidence with which the government is conducting its business and coming out regularly, no setbacks, no walking behind, coming out on the frontier with new schemes every now and then. And this is where I want to bring in the asset monetization story. Look at the sectors in which they are inviting asset monetization, and look at the exciting opportunities that they're providing in the asset monetization. These are brownfield. They're existing there on the ground. Just come and participate. And therefore you will find that the private sector within the country and the participatory institutions from outside the country are going to strengthen this momentum. The last point I would like to mention here, that please, if the country has to become a $5 trillion economy and then a $10 trillion economy, and if we have to compete with America, which is a 20 trillion, or China, which is a 12 trillion, who's going to lead the brigade to success? It is the private sector, and the world understands it. It's not going to be police, army. It's going to be the private sector which leads us into these advanced orbits of global growth. And the private sector within India, private sector outside India understands this, and therefore they're coming and joining us to participate in the growth story. Thank you.
Right. Well, Mr. Charan Singh, a number of important points have cropped up now. You've talked about, how India itself, the domestic market itself is such a rich market with so many opportunities. We have the government's full thrust and focus on various measures for ease of doing business, for opening up opportunities, also, and so much more. Mr. Jindal, what we'll go into all that, especially about, the Prime Minister's mention of well, not the Prime Minister's mention, the Finance Ministry's mention of asset monetization, and also the government's focus on the Gati Shakti project that the Prime Minister spoke about on Independence Day. Those are again latest new measures. But Mr. Jindal, we'd like to know your reactions to the rise of the automobile industry. How far was it expected, this sudden growth? Of course, we've heard a few points from Dr. Charan Singh, and we'd also like to know if you'd like to add something to that.
Yes, automobile is a very, very competitive industry. Lot of work has been done in India for many, many years. This is number one industry, if you can say so, in India, where so much of work has been done and it is developed so well. At this moment, you will see that we are so well equipped to handle automobiles that we are serving the whole world. And this has happened due to our ecosystem, because here we provide the kind of demand, consumption our own country provides. No other country provides this kind of consumption, along with other factors. Like other countries are not so transparent also. Like for example, you will not have confidence, and after pandemic, people have lost more and more confidence from there, and they don't want to associate with negative forces. That is another point. That is why people are moving out of China. Business or no business, they don't want to associate with negativity. So India is a very positive country. We have all seen, the whole world has seen. We are working in a very focused way. All the government schemes which are being announced from time to time, including asset monetization and Gati thing, which was announced by PM Saab, they're all result of very deep level thinking, and they will bring results. They may not bring results immediately, but in the long run, they will definitely bring positive results, because they bring everybody together. They collect everybody, and they are in the interest of every stakeholder. So that is why these schemes are very, very important, because they are for the benefit of one and all. You might have seen in the recent past how these poor people has been helped by the Prime Minister and his schemes, that he is thinking about everybody. A hawker now can get a loan from bank.
Yes.
Nobody could have thought of such things earlier.
Yes.
So all these things, they go a long way. They make an impact. Timing could be a little less or more, but they do bring positive impact, and they do bring confidence in the society. If we lift the poor, then the whole system gets lifted, and they lift the whole country. If we don't lift them, it doesn't work. So the way our PM thinks that is the best way and the only way, that we must lift them. So many things you must have heard in the recent past in these schemes. Nothing. Earlier we were thinking that they will work or they may not work. Some people had apprehensions, or more people had apprehension. But now we see all of them are working in a positive way. And these are the results. These FDI numbers are the result of that. The whole world is passing through a very, very difficult phase. Their economy is decomposing. Our is flourishing. So these countries are in a bad shape. So there is no other way but to come and look towards India for help. And this is our time. This time also supports us. The kind of budgets we are passing now every year, see how much focus on infrastructure, education, health, helping poor. This is the right way and right path for the government, and they should be thinking in terms of those. These are our priorities.
Right.
Digitalization, how we adopted. In a very big way, we have adopted digitalization, and that is also empowering us. And all these factors put together, nothing is matching India in the whole world. And that is the reason the money is coming automatically, and it will continue to come here, because our policies, our thinking process is such. And I'm sure there is not going to be any match sooner for India.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. One of the best investment destinations, no doubt, a positive atmosphere that has been created by the various confidence building measures instituted by the government of India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. These and various other factors responsible for the sharp rise, the immense increase in FDI inflows into India. We'll be discussing this and more in the next half hour, but here it's time for a short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask Up India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching In Focus, in which we are discussing the latest FDI inflow figures, and in our guests in the studio, Mr. Bhal, Mr. Dr. Charan Singh and Mr. S.K. Jindal of ASSOCHAM, Dr. Charan Singh of IGRO and Mr. Bhal of the Government of India. Well, coming to you, Mr. Bhal, once again, we discussed about the automobile industry and how it has risen to such prominence and importance, and how this has been a continuous process over the years. When we talk about the next in line, that is the computer software and hardware industry, that is now occupying 17% of FDI equity inflows, FDI foreign direct investment inflows. What would you say has been the cause for the rise of the computer software and hardware, although it would have been expected?
See, India traditionally has been very strong on the computer software side, with our software engineers sort of being sort of ruling the roost and being invited all over the world. We all know that Indian software engineers, wherever they go, be it the US, UK, Germany, Africa, they're doing a wonderful job. So just to put things in perspective, this infrastructure digitization, this digitization platform which India has successfully embraced. That bandwidth we've got, the way we can transact. See, we were the wonderful country in the world where 90% of our software people kept working through the corona pandemic from home. I mean, very few, rarely some other country in the world would have done it. About 80 to 90% of our software people were working throughout the pandemic from home. Where else in the world will we have this? So, I mean, kudos to our computer software and hardware infrastructure. Kudos to the planning done by the government of India, laying that cable and wire, and through which our Wi-Fi and things operate. The rates which we have are among the lowest. So this backbone of digitization, I will give a whole lot of credit to it. This backbone of digitization, which India has embraced wholeheartedly. And there's an economics philosophy which says the advantages of backwardness. So, Gershon Krohn was a Russian economist who coined this term, the advantages of backwardness. So maybe manufacturing, we didn't have the kind of infrastructure, the software, the parts, the roads, the logistics, we were not so strong in it. But with digitization and the software business, we just leapt over a lot of hurdles. So, we leapt over all these infrastructural problems we had of roads, logistics, and electricity and stuff, which was not required. So for hardware and software, India embraced digitalization in a big way, and we are ruling the world, and we are bearing all the fruits of digitization we are getting. So, I mean, It might sound funny, but think about it. This is the traditional Gershon-Kron's, benefits of backwardness. Like you don't have a landline at home, but you have a mobile at home.
Yes.
So you're jumping that landline business straight to mobile. So that's what we are doing in the hardware and software business. Look at our JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan Aadhaar, mobile. Where else in the world will you be able to provide directly benefits to the poor? Everyone being linked through the Jan Dhan account, the mobile, and the card. Look at our financial sector. Our payments on Paytm and the financial services industries, we are the best in the world. You go to the US, they are nowhere. They're still paying by cash, US and Japan compared to us. Our Paytm, the transactions we do are really stupendous. And this is all leading to all this, look at our unicorns. So look at Byju's, you look at Paytm, you look at Urban Cloud. All that is riding on this software, hardware interface and this digitization. So India's time has come. In a way, we have sort of, as Mr. Jindal was saying, things are suiting us, things are falling in place, and our embrace of digitalization will really lead us to even bigger frontiers.
Right. Dr. Charan Singh, in this context, the government's focus on digitization, even before the pandemic struck, Prime Minister Modi continuously stressing on documentation through digitization, every process through digitization for transparency, even for the public distribution system and to function properly and so on, financial transactions and so on. That as a major factor, have we seen it happen before our very eyes? Not just about foreign direct investment, but about the functioning of an entire nation in the worst of times. That happened so fruitfully and so smoothly in the most important sectors because of our success with the computer, software and hardware system, because of the government's focus on digitization.
Yes. Please remember, very vast countries, size of a continent, actually more than a size of a continent. 4 times the population of America. Europe is nowhere nearby. Look at these countries, 6 crore, 3 crore. Look at the geographical size of the country. There are mountains, there are deserts, there are all sort of extreme zones that are here in the country. How do you reach everyone? And when I was at IIM Bangalore, at that time there used to be a study being conducted, practically implemented, telemedicine and teleeducation. Now telemedicine was, you could be sitting in Bangalore, and in villages which are connected, the patients could come into the clinic over there where just one nurse is sitting, and the doctor at Apollo in Bangalore could be diagnosing the patient sitting in a remote village 300 miles away. These were experiments which were being done. As the pandemic happened, and your question why there's such a large rise in the computers area, precisely for that reason. We suddenly realized that we have the potential in telemedicine, teleeducation, online education. Many of the schools in Delhi and Bombay, this very quickly shifted to online. These days it's difficult to spend a day without joining a webinar or two, because the whole world has gone into now digital webinars. So the point that I'm trying to make is, India was already on the cusp of growth. Computerization is something which we had, in a way, quote unquote, monopolized in the world, while other countries were trying to catch up. In the pandemic that happened, given the workforce that we had, given the vaccines that we produced, and therefore the pharma industry which got a big impetus, they all started engaging actively in these computer activities, which are sitting in your house, online working, preparing the modules, preparing the codes, and delivering it to clients outside. Now, if you look at the pharma companies, the way they have expanded, and some of the computer companies, the way they have expanded in our country, engaging our workforce, good for us. Technically sound workforce is needed for it, good for us. But that has really led to this additional FDI flow into computers. Last point I want to mention is, you and me, especially you are young, but if you look at the elder in your family, you will see that we, at my age, were so much used to going to the brick and mortar branch of a bank and conducting business. And today you will see the elderly in the family also conducting business either on internet and most of it on the Paytm, as was just mentioned, or on your cell phone, the jam point. So therefore, the sea change that has taken place just because of this year and a half of lockdown or pandemic, the whole thing has moved digital. And that is why, and that is the footprint that you see now, that most of the things would be, even after the lockdown is over, after the pandemic is over, you will find that the world has shifted from brick and mortar branches, brick and mortar clinics, brick and mortar schools and blackboards, probably to education. And this was the need of our country, the poor country that we were. Could we really afford those many schools, colleges, teachers, blackboards? We didn't have the money for that infrastructure. Now through telemedicine, it's very, very economical that we can do it. And that is the success. One point I want to mention in the discussion, which you have navigated so beautifully, is on the transport and the automobile sector. I would like to mention, a house, when we construct a house, there are forward-backward linkages with 275 industries. But when you build an automobile, you will be surprised. About 125 industries benefit from one single car that is produced. So if the automobile industry is doing, in a way, it's sustaining ancillary units and MSMEs which are associated with the automobile industry. In a way, that is very good. And the influx of FDI in that sector, in a way, is taking the advantage globally. Of course, we are taking the advantage in terms of employment and returns, but globally, they're taking the advantage of the returns on their investment. Thank you.
Right. Well, Mr. Jindal, when we say, as Dr. Charan Singh has mentioned, well, various points about how the digitization has made all the difference, the government's focus on it. Ultimately, can we say that the COVID pandemic and its aftermath, whatever had to be done by the government in order to control it, in order to ensure that the people were safe, it has ultimately, ironically, led to the growth of the computer software and hardware industry by leaps and bounds, so that, computer software and its use has encompassed millions more.
Absolutely. And I will prove you with some examples. Take example of Doordarshan. We all three have joined from our homes.
Yes.
And this is increase in efficiency for us because we have used less time to do the same thing. Otherwise, if we come to the studio and go back, it will be double the time, minimum.
Yes.
So many of us. And now we are able to do it sitting at home. So efficiency is the name of the game. It has always been like this, that people go towards more efficiency, and then nobody can stop them if they are following that path. Government has come out with so many schemes. The main idea of those schemes was to include everybody and to increase their efficiency. What government schemes are doing? They are increasing the efficiency. You see, money, it has been seen always that money goes where the slope is, where it is more safe. Investor thinks, how will I get this money back? If I get this money back, if I am sure, I will invest it. Otherwise, I will not do it. I will not part with it. If I am sure that it is safe and I will get these things, they make me take a decision where to put my money in. On that account also nothing matches India. And then there is an old saying about COVID you mentioned. There is a very old saying, जो होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है. तो वो आज भी ट्रू है. कोविड हुआ, बहुत सारी चीजें बहुत अच्छी हुई, हमें नहीं भूलना चाहिए. नहीं तो हम कभी सोच नहीं सकते थे. We would not have thought ever कि without going to office also we can work. We were used to thinking that without going to office nothing works. So that has changed. And now we find with so many programs, so many things happening from home, a lot of efficiency has cropped into the system, which is helping it grow and which is helping it to make the new norm. And this is helping it that we have faith that this is sustainable and this is beneficial for all the stakeholders. That is how technology and digitalization. Now you might have seen these new sectors, these startups. How many startups are coming every day? $11 billion have been invested in Indian startups in the first half of this year, which is a huge number. 20 unicorns, firms which have valuation of more than $1 billion.
Yes, yes.
So many good things happening in this that now it is not only happening in the large cities, it is happening in all the small districts also, and so many people are looking towards it. They are trying to set themselves in all over the world. 623 districts of India, you have 50,000 startups working. Nearly 1.8 lakh formal jobs have been created. This could not have been created without computerization and without such kind of help that everybody can work from everywhere. This is infrastructure to work, and had this not been there, we could not have worked, and this could not have grown in this proportion. So all these things are adding, and so many schemes you hear from the government. They are working on so many, and they have come out with so many, and each schemes add value. It may be 0.5%, it may be 1%, but they add value because they are selflessly created schemes. There is no self-interest, so they work well and they bring positivity to the whole ecosystem. They add positivity to the whole ecosystem, and that is the way a country should grow.
Right.
Okay.
A positive ecosystem ensured by various policy reforms, each of which has made a difference one way or the other. How has all this been achieved? What is the road ahead? These and other issues we will discuss, but just before, after this very short break.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
Zari India.
Salam India.
Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Nous sommes l'Inde.
Nahnu hunud.
India.
Ma Hindi hasti.
Mung Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after that break, and back in focus now as we are discussing about FDI inflows, which have touched record highs in the first fiscal in the first quarter of this fiscal. Well, Mr. Bhal, when we talk about the services sector, it's accounting for 11%. It's in third position. What are the FDI policy reforms, you would say, that have led to this kind of figures, very credible figures, very a lot to celebrate on that front as well? Have they worked out as such?
Basically, foreign direct investment promotion, it rests under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry with DPIT, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. But it doesn't mean it only refers to what DPIT is doing. It also refers to what Ministry of Finance does, what Ministry of IT does, what Ministry of Electronics does, all that. DPIT just coordinates all that. So as in the coordinating role, there's a very strong team working in DPIT, which is sort of unraveling the kinks in the architecture for allowing FDI in, which is working through the Invest India arm, which is a global investment facilitation agency to bring in investment in India, both in manufacturing and services. Traditionally, FDI inflow has always been more in services, and because that's the way it has been. It augurs very well that now FDI is coming in a lot in manufacturing, in automobiles and other manufacturing services also. So you see, when you improve the environment for FDI in the country, you do it for all the sectors in the economy. You know, your focus is some broad, general, very broad brush principles you introduce, and then you do some specific tinkering with the sector. Here at this point, let me mention the investment promotion agency called Invest India. It's a very forward-looking agency which comes under DPIT, and they have a team of very bright young people, you know, who sort of keep a global scan, and they see to it where investment is coming in, which are the sectors, whether it is services or manufacturing, where it will whether to tap the financial sector or the business, or let's say, you know, the aerospace sector, the aero services sector. You know, a lot of talk right now going into how to tap this aero planes services industry. So all that, you know, it's there on the radar of the DPIT through their facilitation agencies. And all I'll say is we are on the ball. Government is on the ball, and you know, keeping a very sharp eye outlook everywhere, and with a very positive, dynamic attitude. Another good thing is the very strong interaction between industry chambers like FICCI, CII, SOCHM, and the Government of India.
Yeah.
So there's a very healthy interaction between these people, so that the moment an opportunity is seen and pointed out by the industry chambers and the private sector, the government sort of takes it on board and goes ahead and tries to fulfill it. So it's a very good times, you know, the bonhomie, the synergy between the industry chambers and ministry and the state government is also great. And we've also realized FDI is not just central government, you know, the action is finally in the states. So it's so the maximum FDI in the last 3 months came into Karnataka. So you have to get down to the state level, you have to appoint investment promotion officers, export promotion officers at the state level, tweak the industrial policy at the state level also. And we have very strongly realized that, and the state governments have also come in. The state governments very enthusiastically have come in on board, and they're also doing their bit. So no wonder our FDI is increasing both in the services and the manufacturing sector. Thank you.
Yes, well, Dr. Charan Singh, Mr. Bhal mentioned about the role of the state in this, the coordination between the center and the state. We'd like to hear from you when we talk about investment facilitation. In whichever sector, whether it's services, now Karnataka reporting, you know, the highest FDI investment, definitely the state has a role. Why does Karnataka have these kind of figures and not say another state like say Tamil Nadu perhaps, or say, well, whichever, then of course comes Maharashtra and then other states as well, or even Assam. Why does not it come? The states definitely have a role. Would you agree?
Very good question. Now, let me mention, when we talk of services sector, and that's where I would start the lane, it includes banking, insurance, it also includes finance, outsourcing, R&D, courier services, technology testing and analysis. Now, technology testing and analysis, courier services, R&D, what do they mean? They mean the state government has to lay the infrastructure, encourage industry in that sector. So I remember in Bangalore, I'm aware of high technology, absolutely highest level of technology testing equipment available there. And therefore things come into Karnataka. Now, in this period, we will obviously have, the state government obviously will have to provide infrastructure, places, incentives for industry to really do all these things. Now, traditionally, as you know, banking, insurance, and finance were traditional sectors and services. But R&D, courier, technology testing are the new ones. That is where the industries were in Karnataka providing so much incentives to these sectors is attracting now FDI. Second number, of course, is Maharashtra. Even Delhi is there. But this is also a lesson for other states that they have to keep moving with the latest global technology and look at opportunities where the latest technological developments are taking place and then invite from the rest of the world participation. Please remember what FDI does. FDI brings in the latest know-how and technical skills to the country. While we skill our people, we generate employment, we also attract the best minds from across the world to come and teach us something. So therefore, the first investment, the first threshold level of infrastructure has to be provided by the host state government. The last point I want to mention, because you mentioned about Assam, you're very right, Northeast is a virgin area. And I would really think that the government and Prime Minister has already started talking about it. And we have seen that quite a few senior government officials have started going into Northeast. It's a virgin area. That is the area which we can develop and where we can attract.
Exports, FDI, and startups. They can fuel up the growth. If you are not focused on them, they may not fuel up the growth of a nation. In export, we are seeing those kind of numbers which never happened before. 30 billion plus exports every month. We did not see in the last decade more than 5 times only we could see them. But last 5 months have been each month $30 billion plus. In fact, July 21 was $35 billion. Why? That also in the midst of pandemic. So this shows our strength. This shows we are focused. We are going in the right direction and the ecosystem is working positively. Second is FDI. FDI numbers you have seen, the results are in front of us, and then startups also. So all these three, they will fuel up the export for any nation and for India as well. So as I look at, all three are fueling very well, and these are going to stay. We are going to see these numbers growing day by day because our policies are so strong and now we are more focused on them than before. So I am very optimistic on these numbers and the way the country is going to grow because our time has also come, as I said earlier as well. Thank you.
Right. So our time has come. The entire ecosystem is very positive. A lot of confidence pushed into the system, infused into the system by various government policies and measures. Many thanks to our guests who joined us today for this discussion, Mr. Bhal, Dr. Charan Singh and Mr. S.K. Jindal. Many thanks to our viewers also for tuning in. Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of In Focus. We hope you enjoyed our show. That's all from me for now, but news and updates continue on DD India. So stay tuned. Namaskar.